Welcome back to English Talk Time.
Today's topic is something very real.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever understood English, but when it was your turn to speak, your mind just went blank?
Like everything disappears in 1 second.
You know the words. You studied the grammar. You practiced alone. But when you try to speak, nothing comes out.
And then you feel nervous, embarrassed, maybe even a little ashamed.
That was me. For a long time, I was shy, not because I didn't know English, but because I was afraid to use it.
So today, this is a real story.
From shy to confident. And maybe this story is a little like yours too. Let me take you back to a version of me that I don't even recognize anymore. A version that understood English, but was too afraid to speak it. Every day, I was surrounded by English. In class, in videos, in conversations. I was always there, listening, understanding, learning, but never speaking.
So you were improving, but silently.
Yes, and that silence became my comfort zone. I told myself, it's okay. I will speak when I'm ready. But the truth is, I was never ready. Because I was waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect sentence, the perfect confidence.
And that moment never came.
Never. Instead, something else came. Fear. A quiet fear that followed me everywhere. When someone asked me something in English, my heart would start beating faster. My mind would start racing. And suddenly, all the words I knew just disappeared.
That feeling, like your brain just shuts down.
Exactly. It didn't matter how much I studied. It didn't matter how many words I memorized. In that moment, I felt like I knew nothing. And the worst part? I started believing it. I started believing that maybe I'm just not good at English. Maybe I'm not confident. Maybe I'm just shy.
That belief can trap you.
It did trap me. Because once you believe you are shy, you start acting like it. You avoid speaking. You avoid eye contact. You avoid opportunities. I remember so many moments where I had something to say, a simple sentence, a small idea. But I stayed quiet.
Even when you knew the answer.
Even then, because in my mind, making a mistake was worse than saying nothing. So I chose silence. Again and again. And slowly, that silence became a habit. Not just in English, but in confidence.
That's powerful.
Yeah. It wasn't just about language anymore. It became about how I saw myself. I wasn't just someone learning English. I became someone who hides, someone who waits, someone who watches others speak and thinks. I wish I could do that.
That hits deep.
It does. And here's the truth most people don't say. Being shy in English is not about English. It's about fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of mistakes. Fear of not being good enough. And that fear keeps you silent. Even when you already know more than you think, there is always a moment, a small moment, that changes everything. Not something big, not something dramatic, just a simple situation that hits you harder than anything else.
What was that moment for you?
It happened during a normal day. Nothing special. I was with a few people, and they were speaking in English. Simple conversation. Simple words. Nothing difficult. I was listening, understanding everything, every sentence, every idea. In my mind, I was even answering. Perfectly.
So inside your head, you were fluent.
Yes, inside my head. I was confident, clear, comfortable. But then, someone looked at me and asked me a question. A simple question. The kind of question I had answered 100 times before. Alone.
And?
And in that exact moment, everything collapsed. My heart started beating fast. My chest felt tight. My mind went completely blank. It was like someone erased every word I knew. I tried to think. I tried to remember. But nothing came.
That silence feels heavy.
It felt endless. Everyone was waiting, looking at me, expecting a simple answer, and I just stood there, smiling awkwardly, saying nothing.
That's painful.
It was one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I couldn't say it. And in that moment, I felt something deeper than fear. I felt frustration. I asked myself inside, what is wrong with me? I know this. So why can't I say it?
That question hits hard.
It does, because that's when you realize the problem is not knowledge, it's something else. After that moment, I stayed quiet again, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was anger, frustration, a deep feeling that something inside me was blocking me.
Like your own mind was working against you.
Exactly. And that night, I couldn't forget it. I kept replaying the moment again and again. In my head, I answered perfectly, fluent, confident, clear. But in real life, I said nothing.
That difference hurts.
It hurt a lot, because I realized something important. There were two versions of me. One inside my mind, who could speak English easily, and one in real life, who stayed silent.
That's powerful.
And I asked myself one question. Which version is real? That question changed everything, because I realized the confident version of me already existed. It was already there, inside me. The problem was not creating confidence. The problem was unlocking it.
That's a big shift.
Yes, and in that moment, I made a decision. Not a loud decision. Not something I told everyone. A quiet decision. Inside myself. I said, I'm tired of being silent. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of knowing, but not speaking. And for the first time, I stopped focusing on being perfect. I stopped thinking about grammar, about mistakes, about what people would think. And I told myself something simple, something that felt scary, but also freeing. Next time, I will speak,
Even if it's wrong?
especially if it's wrong, because I realized something very important. Staying silent was the biggest mistake of all.
That realization is powerful.
It is, because most people think making mistakes is failure. But the truth is, silence is the real failure. And that moment, that one simple, painful, uncomfortable moment, became my turning point. Not because everything changed instantly, but because my mindset changed. I stopped asking, how can I be perfect? And started asking, how can I just speak?
That changes everything.
Everything. The next day, nothing looked different. Same place, same people, same English around me. But something inside me was not the same anymore.
What changed?
My decision. It wasn't loud. It wasn't visible. Nobody knew. But inside, I had made a promise to myself. No more waiting, no more silence, no more, I'll speak later. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel comfortable. But I understood something very clearly. If I wait for confidence, I will stay silent forever.
That's the trap most people stay in.
Exactly. So I did something small, very small, so small that most people would ignore it. I started speaking to myself.
Again?
Yes, but this time differently. Not like practice. Not like a lesson. I spoke like it was real. Like I was in a real conversation. I would imagine situations. Someone asking me something. And I would answer, out loud.
That's powerful.
At first, it felt uncomfortable, strange, even a little embarrassing. Even though I was alone, my voice sounded weak. My sentences were broken. Sometimes I stopped in the middle because I didn't know the next word.
Did that frustrate you?
Yes, a lot. There were moments I wanted to stop. Moments I felt like, this is useless. I still can't speak properly. But this time, I didn't stop.
Why?
Because I remembered that moment, when I stayed silent. That feeling was worse than any mistake, so I kept going. Every day, a few minutes, speaking. Not perfectly, just honestly. And slowly, something started to change. My brain stopped panicking. The fear didn't disappear, but it became quieter.
That's progress.
Yes. Then I took another step, a bigger step. I started speaking in real situations. Small ones, very small.
Like what?
Simple things. Ordering something, answering short questions, even just saying one sentence. And every time I spoke, my heart still raced. My voice still felt weak. But I didn't stop. And something surprising happened. The world didn't collapse.
No one laughed?
No, no one stopped me. No one said, "Your English is bad." Most people just listened, understood, and continued.
That must have changed your mindset.
Completely. Because I realized something powerful. People are not judging you as much as you think. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves.
That's true.
And that realization removed a huge weight from my mind. I didn't need to impress anyone. I didn't need perfect sentences. I just needed to communicate, even if it was simple, even if it was broken. Because communication is more important than perfection.
That's a big shift.
Yes, and then something even more important happened. I started noticing my improvement. Not in grammar, not in vocabulary, but in courage.
That's interesting.
Yes, I was becoming someone who tries, someone who speaks, someone who doesn't run away. And that feeling, that small growth, gave me something I never had before. Confidence.
Real confidence.
Not fake confidence, not pretending. Real confidence, built from action. Every time I spoke, even one sentence, I proved something to myself. I can do this.
That builds belief.
Exactly. And slowly, those small sentences became longer. Those short answers became conversations. And those conversations became natural. Not perfect, but real.
That's the goal.
Yes. And here's something very important. I didn't become confident because I removed fear. I became confident because I acted despite fear.
That's powerful.
Fear was still there. Mistakes were still there. But I kept moving forward. And that's when I understood something. Something most learners don't realize. Confidence is not a starting point. It is a result. A result of speaking. Again and again. Even when it feels uncomfortable.
That changes everything.
Yes, and from that point, I was no longer the silent version of myself. I was becoming someone new. Not perfect, not fluent, but brave.
And that's where everything begins.
Exactly. Something changed, but not in the way I expected. It wasn't my vocabulary. It wasn't my grammar. It wasn't even my pronunciation. It was something deeper, something invisible.
What was it?
The way I saw myself. Before, I used to think, I am a shy person. I am not good at speaking. I am someone who understands, but doesn't talk. And without realizing it, I was living inside that identity.
Like a label?
Exactly. Every time I stayed silent, I was proving that label right. Every time I avoided speaking, I was telling myself, this is who you are.
That's powerful and dangerous.
It is, because once you believe something about yourself, you start acting in a way that makes it true. But now, something was different. I had started speaking, even small sentences, even imperfect words. And those small actions started breaking that old identity.
Slowly?
Very slowly. At first, it felt strange, because my actions and my beliefs were not the same. My mind was still saying, You're shy. But my actions were saying, no, you're trying.
That conflict must feel uncomfortable.
It did. There were moments I spoke confidently. And then suddenly, self-doubt came back. A voice inside me would say, that was just luck. You're still not good. Don't get too confident.
That inner voice is tough.
Yes, and it doesn't disappear quickly. But this time, I didn't listen to it the same way. Instead of believing it, I started questioning it. I asked myself, if I'm really shy, then why am I speaking now? If I'm really bad, then how did I just have that conversation?
That changes the narrative.
Exactly. And slowly, very slowly, my identity started shifting. I stopped saying, I am shy, and started saying, I am learning to speak.
That's a big difference.
Huge difference, because one is fixed and the other is growing. And when you see yourself as someone growing, you give yourself permission to improve.
That's powerful.
It is. And then came the real test. A longer conversation. Not one sentence, not a short answer, a real conversation.
Were you nervous?
Very. My heart was beating fast again. My mind was active again. But this time, I didn't run. I stayed, I listened, and when it was my turn, I spoke. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but clearly enough.
And what happened?
The conversation continued. Naturally, there were pauses. There were mistakes. But there was also connection. The other person understood me, responded to me, engaged with me.
That must have felt different.
It felt real. For the first time, I wasn't just practicing English. I was using English. And that moment changed something inside me. Because I realized fluency is not about perfection. It's about connection.
That's deep.
Yes. And once I understood that, everything became easier. I stopped chasing perfect sentences. I started focusing on simple communication. I used easy words, short sentences, clear ideas. And guess what? It worked.
Better than trying to be perfect.
Much better, because perfection creates pressure. But simplicity creates flow.
That's powerful.
And from that point, something amazing happened. I started enjoying speaking.
Enjoying?
Yes. Before, speaking English felt like a test, a challenge, something stressful. But now, it started feeling like a normal part of life. Like talking, like expressing, like connecting.
That's a huge shift.
It is, because when you start enjoying something, you do it more. And when you do it more, you improve faster. And that's exactly what happened. My confidence didn't come from one big moment. It came from many small moments. Every time I spoke, every time I didn't give up, every time I chose action over fear, I became a little more confident.
Step by step.
Step by step. And here's something very important. I didn't become a different person. I became a stronger version of myself.
That's powerful.
Yes, the shy version of me didn't disappear. It evolved. It learned. It grew. And now, it speaks.
That's the real transformation.
Exactly. Not from shy to perfect, but from silent to speaking. There's a moment in every journey when you stop feeling like a beginner, not because you became perfect, but because something inside you finally clicks.
Did you feel that moment?
Yes, but it didn't come suddenly. It built slowly, through all those small steps, all those uncomfortable conversations, all those imperfect sentences. And then one day, I was in a situation that would have scared me before. A real conversation. Not short, not simple. A long conversation.
With who?
Someone confident, someone fluent, someone who spoke English naturally, without thinking. The kind of person I used to avoid.
That sounds intense.
It was. A few months earlier, I would have stayed silent, or found a way to escape. But this time, I stayed.
Even with the fear.
Yes, the fear was still there. But it was different now. It didn't control me anymore. So the conversation started. At first, I was careful, thinking about every word, building every sentence slowly. But something surprising happened. The conversation didn't stop.
They understood you.
Yes, completely. Even when my sentence was not perfect, they understood the meaning. They responded. They continued. And slowly, I stopped overthinking. My sentences became more natural. My voice became more stable. My thoughts started flowing.
That's the moment.
Yes, that's when I felt it. For the first time, I was not translating in my head. I was not panicking. I was not trying to be perfect. I was just speaking.
That's powerful.
It is, and in that moment, I realized something that changed everything. Fluency is not about knowing everything. It's about using what you already know.
That's deep.
Yes. For so long, I thought I needed more vocabulary, more grammar, more knowledge. But the truth is, I already had enough. I just wasn't using it.
That realization changes your approach.
Completely. Because from that moment, I stopped chasing more information and started using what I already knew. Simple words, simple sentences, clear ideas. And guess what? It worked better than everything I did before.
That's a big shift.
Yes. And then something even more important happened. I stopped being afraid of silence.
Silence?
Yes. Before, if I paused for even 1 second, I would panic. I thought, if I stop, people will think I don't know English. But now, I allowed myself to pause, to think, to breathe. And I realized pausing is natural. Even fluent speakers pause.
That removes pressure.
Exactly. And when the pressure disappeared, my speaking improved even more. Because now, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't forcing. I was speaking at my own pace.
That's real confidence.
Yes. And then came the moment I will never forget. At the end of that conversation, the person said something simple. Your English is good.
That must have felt amazing.
It did, but not because of the compliment. It felt powerful because, for the first time, I believed it.
You believed it.
Yes, before, even if someone said something positive, I would reject it. I would think, they're just being nice. But this time, I knew it was true. Not perfect, not fluent, but good.
That's a huge moment.
It is, because confidence is not when others believe in you. It's when you start believing in yourself.
That changes everything.
Everything. And from that moment, something inside me became stable. I was no longer trying to prove myself. I was no longer afraid of every mistake. I was no longer the person who stays silent. I became someone who speaks.
Naturally?
Naturally. Not every time, not perfectly, but consistently. And that's when I understood something very important. Confidence is not a destination. It's a state you build through action. Every time you speak, you build it. Every time you stay silent, you lose it.
That's powerful.
Yes, and from that point, I made one rule for myself. No matter what, I will speak, even if it's broken, even if it's slow, even if it's uncomfortable. Because I know now, the only way to become confident is to stop avoiding speaking.
That's the truth.
And that truth changed my life. At some point, something interesting happens. You stop asking, how do I learn English? And you start asking, how do I live in English?
That's a completely different question.
It is, because learning feels like effort, but living feels natural. And that's where real confidence begins. After that turning point, I didn't stop. In fact, that's where the real work started.
What do you mean?
Most people think, once you feel confident, you're done. But confidence is not permanent. If you stop using it, it fades.
So you had to maintain it.
Not just maintain it, I had to strengthen it. Every single day. I created a simple rule for myself. No day without speaking.
Every day.
Every day. Not hours, not long conversations. Just speaking, even for a few minutes. Because I realized something powerful. Consistency is more important than intensity. Some days, I felt confident. I could speak easily. But some days, the fear came back. The doubt returned. The voice inside said, "You're not improving."
That happens to everyone.
Yes, and this is where most people quit. Not because they can't learn, but because they think they're going backwards. But here's the truth. Progress is not a straight line. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel weak. But both are part of growth. So instead of chasing motivation, I built discipline.
That's important.
Very important. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline keeps you moving. Even when you don't feel like speaking, you speak. Even when you feel tired, you speak. Even when you feel embarrassed, you speak.
That builds real strength.
Exactly. And then I discovered something even deeper. The way you practice matters, more than how much you practice.
What changed in your practice?
Before, I was focusing on correctness, grammar, accuracy, perfection. But now, I focused on communication, expression, clarity. I asked myself one simple question. Can the other person understand me?
That simplifies everything.
It does. Because language is not about perfection. It's about connection. So I changed how I spoke. Instead of using complicated sentences, I used simple ones. Instead of searching for perfect words, I used the words I already knew. Instead of stopping when I made a mistake, I continued.
That builds flow.
Yes, flow is everything. Because when you stop too much, your confidence breaks. But when you keep going, even with mistakes, your confidence grows. And here's something very important. I stopped comparing myself to others.
That's hard.
Very hard. Because there will always be someone better. Someone more fluent. Someone more confident. But comparison creates pressure. And pressure creates fear. So instead, I compared myself to my past.
That's a better way.
Yes, I asked. Am I better than last week? Am I speaking more than before? And when the answer was yes, I felt progress. Then came another important realization. Listening is just as important as speaking.
How did that help?
I started listening differently. Not just for understanding, but for imitation. I listened to real conversations, podcasts, simple dialogues, and I noticed patterns, how people start sentences, how they respond, how they react. And then I copied that.
Like training your brain.
Exactly. Language is not just knowledge, it's habit. And habits are built through repetition. So I created a cycle. Listen, repeat, speak, again and again, every day. And slowly, my speaking became faster, more natural, more automatic.
That's fluency.
Yes, not perfect, but natural. And then something even deeper happened. English stopped feeling like a subject. It became part of my life.
That's the goal.
Yes, I started thinking in English. Not always, but more often. Small thoughts, simple ideas, daily things. And that changed everything, because now I didn't need to translate anymore.
That removes a big barrier.
Exactly. And here's something most people don't realize. Fluency is not about speed. It's about comfort.
Explain that.
You can speak slowly and still be fluent. But if you are comfortable, if you are relaxed, if you are not afraid, that is real fluency. So I stopped chasing speed. I focused on comfort, speaking calmly, clearly, naturally. And when comfort increased, speed came automatically. And finally, the most important lesson of all. I stopped seeing English as a problem and started seeing it as a tool.
That's powerful.
Yes, a tool to express, a tool to connect, a tool to grow. And once I saw it that way, fear lost its power. Because now, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just communicating, living, connecting.
That's the highest level.
Yes, so if you're listening right now and you feel stuck, remember this. You don't need more books. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need to wait. You need to speak every day. even if it's small, even if it's slow, even if it's uncomfortable, because that is the only way forward. And one day, you'll notice something. You're not thinking so much anymore. You're not afraid like before. You're just speaking.
Naturally.
Naturally, let me tell you something honestly. If you are still here, listening to this, feeling every word, then you are not far. You are closer than you think.
Closer?
Yes, closer than you feel. Closer than your fear tells you. Closer than your doubt allows you to believe. Because think about it. You already understand English. You already recognize words. You already follow conversations. That means you are not starting from zero. You are standing at the edge.
The edge?
The edge of speaking. The only thing between you and confidence is action. But here's the problem. Most people don't cross that edge. Not because they can't, but because they are afraid to fall.
Afraid of mistakes?
Yes, afraid of mistakes, afraid of judgment, afraid of sounding wrong. So they stay where it feels safe, silent, comfortable, stuck. But listen carefully. That safe place is not actually safe. It feels safe, but it slowly destroys your confidence. Every time you choose silence, you make fear stronger. Every time you avoid speaking, you make doubt deeper.
That's true.
And one day, you realize something painful. You've been learning for months, maybe years, but you still can't speak. Not because you don't know, but because you never allowed yourself to try. So let me ask you something. How long will you wait? How long will you stay silent? How long will you keep saying, "I'll speak when I'm ready"? Because the truth is, you will never feel ready. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. So if you're waiting to feel confident, before you speak, you will wait forever.
That's powerful.
It is, because that's where most people get stuck. But you can do something different. You can decide, right now, that you will not stay silent anymore. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Right now, even if your voice shakes, even if your words are broken, even if your sentence is not perfect, you speak. Because every time you speak, you break fear. Every time you try, you build confidence. Every time you continue, you move forward.
Step by step.
Step by step. And listen, you don't need to become someone else. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to sound like a native speaker. You just need to become someone who speaks. That's it. Simple, but powerful. Because once you become someone who speaks, everything changes. Conversations become easier. Your thoughts become clearer. Your confidence becomes stronger. And slowly, without even noticing, you become the person you always wanted to be.
That's the real transformation.
Yes, not from shy to perfect, but from silent to speaking. And one day, you will be in a conversation, and something will feel different. You will not panic. You will not freeze. You will not overthink every word. You will just speak.
Naturally.
Naturally, and in that moment, you will remember this version of yourself. The one who was shy, the one who was afraid, the one who stayed silent. And you will realize something powerful. That version of you was never weak. That version of you was just waiting. Waiting for courage. Waiting for action. Waiting for you to take the first step.
That's deep.
It is. And now, you have that chance. Not in the future, not someday, right now. So don't wait. Speak. Even if it's small. Even if it's slow. Even if it's not perfect. Because that is how confidence begins. Not in your mind, but in your voice. And remember this, you are not behind. You are not too late. You are not incapable. You are learning. You are growing. You are becoming. And most importantly, you are closer than you think. So, from shy to confident, it wasn't magic.
It wasn't talent.
It wasn't perfect grammar. It was small steps. Speaking, even when it felt uncomfortable.
Trying, even when it felt scary.
Continuing, even when it felt slow. And that's something you can do too.
You don't need to be perfect.
You don't need to know everything.
You don't need to wait anymore.
You just need to start. Start with one sentence. Start with one moment. Start with one small step today.
Because one day, you'll look back at this version of yourself.
And you won't see someone shy. You'll see someone who tried. Someone who didn't give up. Someone who kept speaking, even when it was hard.
And that's the person who becomes confident.
So don't stay silent anymore. Speak, even if it's not perfect.
Because your confidence is waiting on the other side of your voice.
Thank you for listening to English Talk Time.
And we'll see you in the next conversation.